Welcome to the Troll Patrol Live. Got a little bit of a new arrangement here. Today we have our first guest on the show. Producer Dave from Echoplex Media is going to be dropping by to talk about conspiracy theories. That's coming up here in a little bit. As always, we're taking calls, 917-830-4359. If you want to call in, tell me I'm stupid. Argue with me about fucking anything. I want to start off today's show by bitching about something. I used to have a segment on my old radio show, The Freak Show. It was called What's Pissing Me Off This Week, and we might have to bring that one back. What's pissing me off this week is the martyrization. Is that a word? Martyrizing. Is that a word? The making of a martyr out of this Kyle Rittenhouse kid. I feel sorry for this fucking punk-ass kid. He had his head filled with right-wing fucking nonsense. And it's the people that are defending him now that filled his head with just absolute bullshit, which caused him to throw his life away. I can't believe there are people that are scoffing at the idea that this kid is going to... He may not spend the rest of his life in jail, but he's going to spend a good chunk of it, at least. I mean, it was what, 7 charges? I haven't looked at the list of charges that dropped today. Several felonies. He is going to take a plea deal. There are people online that are claiming this kid is going to walk. I am going to be amazed if it goes to trial. He is looking at so much time. He will take whatever fucking offer. If there's a chance that he will get out in his lifetime in a deal that the state offers him, that is what is going to happen. I can't believe there are people that... It's going to be wild if it does go to a trial. I'm going to be amazed if it does. Because if they offer that kid fucking 20 years, he needs to snatch it up. Absolutely. And any fucking lawyer worth their money would tell him that. So these people online that think it's even going to go to trial, you're fucking stupid. If it does go to trial, though, holy shit. And that will be the only reason it will go to trial would be because they want it to be a show trial. Because they would want to make a fucking mockery of our judicial system. And like, that may be a play that works. I don't fucking know. But any fucking respectable lawyer would tell that kid to take whatever deal the state gives him. And there are people that just like, oh, he's gonna walk free. No, he's fucking not. Holy shit. And I feel sorry for him. That's the thing. Is he's just a little dumb punk ass kid. But he's been pumped so full of this right-wing propaganda. A lot of it's this QAnon bullshit. From the darkest reaches of the internet, the Reddits, the 4chan. That's another thing. One of the things we'll ask Dave about coming up here is the possible unmasking of Q in the QAnon community. There are people that think they have outed the man that's Q, and of course it would be because right-wingers fucking project. It's a man with a questionable criminal history. One of the things I'm really worried about is multiple outlets now have come out and have warned that it could appear that Trump wins on election night. Let's see if this is the right. Yes, here we go. Of an apparent election day landslide. So I don't exactly know who said it here in this story. But that's been something that I've heard on a couple of different outlets, that Trump could possibly look like he won on election night. But as the absentee ballots, as the mail-in ballots come in, Biden will actually overtake him. I don't know that I put that much weight into that, because as we saw the other night, it was one of the things that we did as we followed along with the RNC, is that we watched the individual polls for the states. And if states like Georgia and Texas are looking competitive, if Biden is possibly going to win those states, it's not going to look good for Trump. I don't see how he pulls it out. Right now, Biden up 6 points nationally. Texas, Trump is up 3. That is the margin of error. If it's that close in Texas, I don't see a scenario in which Trump even looks like he won by a landslide, for fucking sure. It won't look like a landslide. I don't know who these people are, and I'm going to question if the headline isn't meant to provoke, is it meant to be sensationalist? They want you. They wanted everybody to talk about this story. That's the reason why they wrote it. I don't know that I see a scenario where that happens. Now, could it look like Trump wins on election night? That's possible. I don't think it looks like he wins in a landslide. I think that's fucking stupid. I do not see any scenario where that happens. So since we did the last show, plenty of people have called on me here. Let's see what we got going on. The Babylon Bee. Oh, I asked where everyone was rubbing their nuts together. That sounded like a fun time to me. Where the fuck is everybody rubbing their nuts together? If someone who has it sneezes within 6 feet of you, that's why you wear a fucking mask. So if someone sneezes, it keeps their spit and their spittle to themselves. It doesn't like spray out into the air. You just literally made the argument for wearing a mask. You know, it has popped up with a couple different warnings, but I've just kind of X'd out. One of the things that I said was, if I'm staying at home and not going out because I'm afraid of catching something, me, a man who routinely sleeps with strangers unprotected, then you should probably take it serious if I'm worried about catching something. I was hoping there was more people that had tried to troll me back, but it looks like it's a futile effort. Tell you what, let's go ahead. Let's call up our friend, Producer Dave. get him on the line here.
Yo.
Producer Dave, how are you, my friend?
Good. I was watching the beginning of your stream and cracking some jokes in your Twitch chat.
I saw that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to come in completely cold.
Producer Dave is the producer over at Echoplex Media. It's such a long list of shows. I'm gonna let you give everybody the rundown on what you want to plug while I get you set up so everybody can see you here.
I don't really need to give everybody the rundown. I can kind of tell people a little bit about myself and what I've been doing and kind of how I came to be here.
Please do. I don't know that story. I would love to hear it.
So maybe back, I don't know. You're pretty near my age. Do you remember Usenet?
I'm aware of it. I did not use it. I did not get a computer until I was about a junior in high school. That would have been 1999, 2000, something like that.
Usenet was still going around. The first thing I found on there was alt religion Scientology, and that was just kind of looking at some stuff in there. But then I found like the conspiracy theory boards on there, and I started cracking jokes on those people. This was before 9/11 too, so this was like more like the golden age of like non-violent conspiracy theorists. It was like Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster and like the aliens abducted my aunt when she was on methamphetamine, that kind of stuff.
Oh, back in the fun days.
Yeah, but I've been kind of goofing on people since then. I think you're definitely aware of like the Busta Troll Army and whatnot, right?
Absolutely.
I was involved in hoaxing. There's a website called IntelliHub. I was involved in helping the Busta Troll Army hoax IntelliHub 2 or 3 different times because they're, let's say, not very big on the critical thinking. And that was on Facebook. And then like 2012 or 2013, I guess, we started some blog somewhere. And we kind of started out posting about, I guess, mainstream politics, like electoral politics. And then my interest in cults and conspiracy groups kind of took over, and then I launched a website, echoplexmedia.com. The blog was called The Daily Echo, and we got drunk and would invite people over, and people started calling this the Echoplex because we were always drunk and talking about our blog. And so that's kind of where the name
What year did you launch Echoplex?
The website went up in summer 2015.
When was the blog?
The blog was like 11 or 12. But it wasn't like it was. I forget where it was. It was like a Blogger or like.
Those were the golden days of the internet. Like you and I were talking about goading groups and shit.
Yeah, that was right around that time, maybe a little before all that started happening. That me and Randall Aubrey, who had went on after Echoplex to do Soapbox Radio, we ended up doing that, but. Basically, as soon as I launched the website, the focus became pretty clear that my interest in cults, conspiracy theories, control groups, and extremism were going to kind of be what drives the show, and the electoral politics stuff. We get into it some, but it takes a real backseat. I mean, you covered. I wanted to thank you, by the way. You came on to our stream on Twitch to do like the rundown of the RNC a couple like last week. And if you noticed, me and the media were primarily focused on like the conspiratorial and cult like things the people were saying, not so much like the policy stuff.
See, I love the minutia of it. I actually really like. I would love nothing more than to be a communications director inside of a campaign.
Okay.
That like coming up with the chess strategy of a campaign. That's what I really get into. And that was one of the things that I really like to cover when we were talking about the RNC was why they're putting this person here. What state are they trying to win? What play are they trying to make? But the problem with the Trump administration is they're fucking throwing spaghetti at the wall. They don't fucking know what they're doing.
I mean, to some extent, yeah. But if anybody wants to follow me, the best place to do that, well, there's a couple best places. The best place if you want to like join the hive mind is our Discord. That's discord.me/Echoplex. And if you want to watch our shows, that's at twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. And if you just search Echoplex Media on any of your podcatchers, you'll catch all of our shows. We do, I guess, 3 podcasts like regularly. We do a local news show called Down Ballot. We do the Intellectual Dollar Tree, which is making fun of like Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson and all those people. And then we do the Plex, the Sunday show, which is like our news rundown. But again, it's focused on cults and conspiracy theories.
The
and if people are checking this out,
seem to be your big target on the Intellectual Dollar Tree as of late.
Yeah, lately, because they're the ones like the most desperate for attention right now. Because like before the intellectual dark web happened, neither of them were really platformed. Like Sam Harris had a big platform. Jordan Peterson was starting to build a big platform for himself. Michael Shermer isn't so involved with those people anymore, but he already had Skeptic Magazine. Like Joe Rogan was already Joe Rogan. Steven Pinker, the most annoying man in the world, sort of comes in and out of this intellectual dark web thing. But he also like has a platform for himself. And the two Weinstein brothers, if that intellectual dark web thing falls apart, they're gone. They're done, you know?
I still don't even really know who they are. One's a professor, right?
Yeah, one's a professor and the other's a venture capitalist who works for Peter Thiel.
Oh God, that automatically makes him insufferable.
And they both peddle conspiracy theories too. Like Eric Weinstein peddles a conspiracy. He was like talking about how COVID-19 was made in a lab on one of his little walk and talks where he puts the phone like uncomfortably close to his face and walks down a trail in his nice neighborhood. I think he probably lives in Malibu. That seems like where he'd probably live.
Are you drinking a hard beverage?
No. We have a stream later, and it's if we're gonna stream later, I probably shouldn't drink yet. But I do have a bottle of vodka in the freezer.
Well, what is tonight's stream?
So there's a thing going on Twitch called September, and when the difference between Twitch and YouTube is like on Twitch, a subscriber is somebody who's paying a monthly fee for your content, and they get a few extra bonuses like extra emotes and whatnot. But there's a deal on Twitch for like affiliates and partners. If people subscribe on Twitch, they get it at a lower rate, the subscription, but Twitch then still pays the content creator the same amount of money for the sub. So we're gonna call the stream like September e-bagging and chat video requests or something. You know, it's Twitch, so it's like way more casual.
You got some clever names. I really enjoy the Intellectual Dollar Tree.
Oh, you know what? R.I.P. the breadboard baker, a friend of ours who passed away, was one of the original contributors to that show, and he just started calling them the Intellectual Dollar Tree. And then that show came out of the women on our Sunday show being like, if you play another Jordan Peterson clip, I'm going to just start dumping water on all of the computer equipment in here.
Man, I ran across on some thread in a group a guy that was like, you can't even play a professor in a college classroom without the left coming after you. I'm like, what professor are you talking about? And he's like, Jordan Peterson. That was the first time I ever heard that name. That was probably mid 2017, and holy shit, I'm so sick of hearing his name now.
I'm defenseless against that kind of female insanity.
So let's talk about a conspiracy. Did meat daughter? Is that what you call her?
Beef daughter.
Beef daughter. Did beef daughter off her father?
It's a funny thing to say, but I don't think that Michaela Peterson is in fact trying to kill Jordan Peterson.
Man, have you really examined the evidence on this one right now? I haven't.
It's a funny thing to say. I don't know. I don't believe anything out of that family's out of any of their mouths, though. I'm not sure I believe the claim about his wife having had cancer. I don't necessarily believe that he got flown off to Russia. I don't believe any of this. They could have been sitting in their fucking place in Canada with the lights off this whole fucking time, and nobody would know it.
I saw a picture of them in Russia with his like soulless eyes.
I mean, I'm kidding about that too. But I think the whole thing's like super embellished, and I think that a lot of it is possibly to make up for the fact that this guy who told everybody how to live a good and almost perfect life, a good deal of that time was struggling with a substance abuse problem, and instead of him just being a normal ass person who had a substance abuse problem like some normal ass people do, it had to be some fantastical story, some like saga of the trials and tribulations of this family, and so I think that there's some of that going on, and I think that I don't think the beef daughter's trying to kill him, but I do think that there's more. She's had more to do with a lot of what's been going on with him maybe we knew previously.
Well, so the only appearances he's made this year thus far has been with her on her podcast, correct?
I think so, yeah. I think it's only been one.
And he gave a interview where he kind of went through the saga of the Russia ordeal. Why are we even talking about? Neither one of us wants to talk about Jordan Peterson, and then I'm like fascinated that he's that once again it's because of the claims of having, you know, being clean your room is the magic solution to getting your life together and everything. And he's had such mundane struggles. Obviously, it's what we all go through. But like you kind of get some Schadenfreude in talking about his struggles now. So I'm sorry we got off on that topic. That was not how I wanted to start this. Did you finish your plugs?
Oh yeah. I guess like that's it. Just twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. And if you're a podcast listener, you can punch Echoplex Media into your podcatcher. There's some current and some defunct. If you like music, there's a local music podcast. It's kind of on again, off and again, depending upon how much energy I have to put into it, called Local Love. And that's great. We interview local bands and stuff. But the big one's called The Plex. You can find it damn near. Well, no, that's not even the case. The big one's the Intellectual Dollar Tree. It wasn't supposed to be like that, but that's the big one.
See, that's why I didn't want to say it. I was going to say that the Plex was the big show, but like I didn't want to diminish any of your other properties.
It used to be that the Plex was the big one, but nah. People big mad at the Intellectual Dollar Tree. I'm gonna listen to it.
Well, once again, there's a lot of meat on that bone.
Yeah, and it's just there's just like a rabid fan base that gets hella mad. It's like a cult kind of.
Well, see, I think that's one of the grifts of the right wing. Their fan base is left wingers dunking on them. I think that's Ben Shapiro's whole deal. I don't think he's a dumb man at all. I think he's very smart. Him reading the lyrics to WAP, oh my God. And we ate that shit up, man. Like, and that's the whole reason he's relevant, is because left wingers enjoy dunking on him, and then that ingratiates him to the right wingers. So it's like a double. I wish I could pull that off.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think it's just luck that some of the people that have had that happen. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they really intended it that way. I know Dave Rubin didn't intend it that way. That guy's dumb.
He is absolutely dumb, but he has isolated himself from that community now, hasn't he? Like they all consider him dumb.
I don't think that thing is really a thing anymore. They're not really interviewing each other, and I think the Weinstein brothers are the only people who want to keep it alive because they need it for them to stay famous or whatever.
Well, that's one of the things that, like, with the right wing, there's such a symbiotic relationship with all their different people that are all probably being funded by some fucking right wing cabal. They all go on each other's shows. They just cross-platform each other constantly.
We could do a little more of that as like liberals and leftists, but also, like, you have to understand that the popular shows, the liberal and leftist shows, like the most popular ones, the Majority Report, and Sam interviews somebody every day, but he's not interviewing somebody else that has a show about cancel culture. He's like, here's a professor that wants to tell us about, you know, black history in the late 1800s in Kentucky. And
he's doing something substantive, which is what I appreciate.
Right. No, it's the best fucking political show, period. I don't care what anybody says. Sam Cedar's show is so good. I had XM back in 2005, 2004. I don't remember when I first got it, but I've been listening to him since it was him and Janine on Air America, like that far fucking back. Yeah, I absolutely love Sam, but when I try not to listen to him as much when I'm doing shows because I don't want to let it influence me too much. That's another thing whenever I'm doing stand-up comedy. I don't like listening to stand-up comedians because I don't want to be stealing subconsciously off of them or like absorbing their influence. But that's just me. Yeah, I guess I'm lucky in that I cover like this. We've been covering the same cast of characters to some extent since 2015, including people like Madison Star Moon, a guy named Jim Lee who pretends to be a meteorologist, Hamburglar Dan Badandi, who used to work for InfoWars. In fact, I'll give everybody a Hamburglar emote. Sub to my channel, you get the Hamburglar emote. Yeah, there's a couple Hamburglars right there. And like Austin Bennett and stuff. So it's easier for me to listen to other content without feeling like I'm being influenced by it in too great a way. And on the other hand, like if somebody is going to influence my thinking on things and I'm listening to people I like who have kind of thought their positions out well and kind of read up on what they're talking about, I think so long as I'm not like trying to do a shtick where I'm pretending to be them, I think maybe that's a good thing.
That's not a bad perspective. All right, so one of the things I wanted to start off with in terms of conspiracy theories is a few weeks ago I asked the question on my page, do people believe that Hillary Clinton has had people killed? And it was very shocking to me that it was pretty much half and half of my, intelligent, tend to lean leftist liberal friends. We're talking like it was 16-16. People that thought Hillary Clinton had people killed. And I find that fascinating. So what's your thoughts on this?
In what capacity? She was the Secretary of State. She's got a body count.
Oh, of course she does. Not in terms of U.S. imperialist foreign policy. That she's had people in business dealings killed. What was the
Seth Rich?
Before Seth Rich, there was another one.
Vince Foster.
Vince Foster. There we go. So those are the conspiracies we're talking about.
Oh, I think it's highly unlikely. I think that, contrary to popular belief, if everybody knows your name and you're running around killing people, probably the clearance rate on those kinds of people for law enforcement is pretty fucking high. That makes sense. Everybody knows who you are and you're having people killed. You're going to have a short career in having people killed.
My friend he was taken aback that I couldn't believe that there was this shadowy cabal that was like carrying out hits on people in the streets of America. It boggles my mind that somebody would believe that. And I couldn't. This is an educated person who is on the left. This isn't QAnon kind of shit.
So when I talk about this kind of stuff, like I was saying, I do take ideas from other people. I want to give kind of a big shout out to a guy named John Atack. He's a former Scientologist, but now he works for something called the Open Minds Foundation, and they kind of deal with cults and control groups and like helping people after they've left and giving people inside resources to try to get out and like to tell the stories of some of the people who've gotten out. And one of the things he told me, and we were talking about cults and conspiracy theories in the same conversation, because I think there's a lot of like kind of cross-pollination there. He was saying that people who join cults tend to be not stupid. They tend to be the people you would think probably wouldn't, because they can kind of convince themselves that what they're doing is right by using their brain to tell themselves a story about it. And I would presume that because there's just so much cross-pollination between the thinking of a cult member and the thinking of a conspiracy theorist, or maybe maybe I'll be a little more precise. There's a lot of cult mentality in conspiracy movements. And so if people get involved in these movements, they're not going to necessarily be the dumb people that you think would get involved. Like you talk to somebody who really fucking believes that 9/11 was an inside job, for example, they're going to be able to recall all kinds of information. The information's going to be false, right? Or most of it's going to be false, but it still takes brain power to be able to recall a lot of information and rattle off facts and figures and whatnot.
Oh,
and
no,
if you talk
I was a 9/11 truther. I could bam, shit I'd watched on stupid ass YouTube videos, and some of it is real information.
That's the point. You can't just give false information. You have to give some real information, probably some false information, and then I guess generally draw an absurd fucking conclusion. So it doesn't really surprise me at all that smart people get involved in conspiracy theories. For a while, I was disengaged in my friend group as far as that kind of stuff, right? I was like, I don't care if this person believes in fucking chemtrails, right? But now me and the media wench, my co-host for most of my shows, we've both kind of independently, but at the same time, ended up kind of telling people, hey, this QAnon shit is scary. Don't do this. This is a cult. We've heard you make fun of Scientology. Don't join this thing. And I think that, maybe our tactic is bad or whatever. But, what you were saying about Hillary Clinton and the body count, I think it's really important to understand that, like, a lot of people hate her. Like, there was, as far as, like, people involved in politics and, like, campaigns of, I'll just say harsh criticism. That shit was going on since basically the primary election, the first time Bill Clinton ran for president. I'm sure it was going on a state level about her too, when he was involved in state politics. And people make fun of what she was saying about there being a vast right-wing conspiracy, and I think she kind of worded it wrong, but she's not wrong. The right has had it out for her. Like everybody, like I'm not talking about like whoever's on Facebook talking shit. I'm talking like Rush Limbaugh. I'm talking like Newt Gingrich. I'm talking about powerful people in the mainstream American political right have had it out for her for so long and been saying for so long that she's this terrible person that I just don't think it's a big stretch for people to believe other stuff about her. I don't think they're right, but I don't think that they're like, it's not some flat earth shit. You know what I'm saying?
So it's just media conditioning for the past, 30 years now?
To some extent, some of it's also like a lot of individuals. I'm not going to say like a large group of people, but a lot of individuals were big mad about the 2016 primary, and then they ended up watching people like Jimmy Dore and Nico House and like kind of left-wing conspiracy theory peddlers, and so those people ended up believing stuff about Hillary Clinton. Although the Vince Foster thing's a little before the time, but Seth Rich was just Vince Foster 2.0.
Absolutely, and that's not even all the bodies they attribute to her. Like I can't even.
The other thing. Oh, go ahead.
No.
Oh, okay. So the other thing too, they're like, look at all these people that she knows that died, and I was kind of talking to my parents about that, and they're in the same age range as the Clintons, and my mom's like, hey, some of my friends are dead too because I'm getting old.
Yeah, over 30 years, several people around you are going to die. That's just a thing that happens.
And especially if you're a well-known person with a lot of connections, there's going to be a higher number of people that can be loosely connected to you that will die just because you're the Secretary of State. How many hands is that person shaking in their life?
So that's another thing, like our minds are wired to detect patterns, and we're so good at it that we detect patterns even when they aren't there. So if you're looking for something with Hillary Clinton and you see, oh, all these people have died, but you don't notice it with people that you're not looking for something on them. You're actually looking for something on Hillary so that you take notice of it. Just like, when the phone rings, you're like, oh, I was thinking of you. Well, there's only a handful of people you're going to be thinking about. And the chances are those are the people that are going to call you. It's just all a coincidence thing. It's a game of statistics.
Right. And like, I think a lot of conspiracy theory just ends up being anomaly hunting in a lot of ways. But I have to tell you, like, I don't know everything that happened to me yesterday, right? But I guarantee you something yesterday happened that was out of the ordinary or anomalous. Like something happened to you yesterday that was out of the ordinary. Oh, you couldn't do your show because of the weather. I think you were having some internet problems.
Yep.
And so that's an anomaly. That's like not what usually happens on Monday, right? And so if you go out like kind of after the fact, re-examining any situation and looking for anomalies, you can find them. Absolutely.
Well, that's one of the things, like, if I understand how people believe in a God or a higher power, because if I didn't know any better, I would swear everything does seem to happen for a reason. But if a whole different set of circumstances happened, I would think that, that also happened for a reason. It's just my interpretation of things that are trivial but seem like a big deal to me.
I used to be a lot more interested in the idea of whether or not there's a God. I clearly don't believe in one, but I've more or less lost interest in even talking about that shit with anybody. Like if somebody joined my Discord and wanted to convince me of Jesus' existence, I'd be like, could we please talk about something else?
See, I'm kind of the opposite. I'm like, oh, you want to go back to the good old fashioned God? Do you remember like Cy 10 Bruggencate and the Christian apologetics kind of guy. Those were the people I argued with back when I was cutting my teeth in the early days of the internet. But that's another thing, is you're more geared towards Scientology, whereas I kind of go after religion because it's what's here in my face, where you got Scientology where you're over on the West Coast.
Well, it's not so much that I have Scientology in my face. I can real quickly. So back in the day, I'm of the appropriate age to have been in San Francisco when the rave scene blew up, at the same time the tech money was falling from the sky. So I went to a lot of fucking raves and I met a lot of fucking people. And a lot of those people were sort of free-spirited. And I became good friends with one of those people in 1999 or 2000. Come around 2004, that person joined Scientology and went to Clearwater, Florida to join the Sea Org. And I became fascinated with that cult and other cults. And I've been monitoring the cult of Scientology ever since, because they took my fucking friend. It's not just the West Coast, although if she wasn't on the West Coast, there wouldn't have been so many of the buildings or whatever. Her mother was loosely affiliated with the church, and I think that's kind of how they got to her. I don't know the story, though, because once they get to you, once the Scientology gets to somebody, that person ain't telling you shit anymore.
Yeah, they wall you off. Well, it's one of the things with the like, they do those audits. Isn't that like a form of blackmail that they're using against people to stop them from talking?
It could be. It just depends. It really depends. If you're nobody, then maybe it's not as valuable for them to take like as copious of notes. But maybe if you're a celebrity, then yeah. There's we've been fortunate enough to have a few people on the show on Thursday that we do about Scientology, and we were like super lucky. A guy named Tony Ortega, who runs a site called The Underground Bunker, came on, and I mean, if anybody's interested in the cult of Scientology, I can't recommend his site highly enough. It's TonyOrtega.com. He said that he is the only person on the planet crazy enough to write about Scientology every day. So he used to work at the Village Voice and shit. He's real good people, and he turned us on to some things. Like, he turned us on to the Scientology connection to like the anti-vaccine movement last summer, and
well, see, like, what is there to write about every day? As someone who's not around it as much, I'm not exactly familiar with all their happenings. What are they doing?
Well, that's the thing is, I mean, he's sometimes going back over something that he wrote about before when there's an update or whatever. People can check his website every day. I mean, he's got articles up every day. And, of course, not all of them are like big news or whatever. But if something big happens, he's going to be the first on it, and he's going to do the best job. And just kind of dropped on me that some of the Scientology people are starting to believe in QAnon. Like at the end of the interview, right before he had to hang up, I think he was fucking with me. Not fucking with me, like not lying to me, but he's like, "Oh, I'll save this till the end and just make him think about this for a year."
See, that's what you keep bringing up QAnon. I keep wanting to direct us off of it, because I'm saving that for the end. That's what we wrap up with.
I did want to, at the beginning, you had mentioned that people are being radicalized on like 4chan and Reddit. And I think that like maybe there's a bit of a misconception there. I think that most people right now are, and as has been the case for a long time, are being radicalized on Facebook.
You are correct. But I feel like a lot of the shit that I see on Facebook is being laundered from Reddit and 4chan. Like, that's where it originates. I'm not sure that I'm right about that.
Well, no, I mean, that's the thing is, it's not that, like, the material, well, it just depends. It really depends. I mean, some of it originates on YouTube. Some of the more extreme stuff originates on that BitChute site. Do you know what BitChute is?
No. That's a new one to me.
Don't go on that website on your stream on Twitch. Imagine everybody who got kicked off of YouTube. They're all on BitChute.
Ooh.
But what I'm saying about Facebook is, it's not that the material originates there. The material originates on a variety of websites. It's that Facebook is where everyone is. It's where all the fucking eyes are. It's where everyone is. Of younger people, like people under 30, tend not to be on there, but everybody 30 and up is on there. And most people that get radicalized, I think, are radicalized in Facebook groups. And because, I mean, you can go find some crazy ass public groups, but you have to understand that there are groups that are not viewable by the public.
Oh, I know. I've been in them.
Yeah, if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, you know, you have to like make friends or somehow get invited to those groups. And I think that's where most people are radicalized. And I think 4chan gets too much credit. I think way more QAnon believers have happened because of Facebook than because of any of the QAnon sites. I think the chemtrails movement, which now seems quaint and almost adorable, all things considered, like once a year, some lunatic would suggest shooting down a commercial aircraft, and that was about as far as that went in the chemtrails movement. But all those people who are probably now like anti-mask advocates and like ardent anti-vaxxers were all exposed maybe to chemtrails as the gateway drug on Facebook. And I think a lot of people just don't understand that because of the number of people on Facebook that these like almost cult-like groups of conspiracy theorists, they're getting people on, they're finding people on Facebook, and they're finding people in the groups specifically.
Now, you've done a good job of noticing how Facebook is monetizing this. Would you care to explain that?
Oh, I mean, there's two. First of all, before I do anything, we pissed off this lady named Betty Washam, and we wrote an article about her.
Betty.
Do you remember Betty Washam?
No. I'm just sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, check this out. We put an article on our website about it, and on her stream, she said this about us.
They put me in a fucking magazine.
So the very next day, I changed blog on our website to magazine. So, and now we only refer to it as our magazine. So on our magazine, there's two articles. If you go to echoplexmedia.com, you can just click on the navigation bar. There's magazine, and there's two articles about Facebook, not only spreading misinformation, but monetizing it. What I've asked people to do is if you find an ad, like, for example, there was an ad for a pendant that stops 5G. Well, the pendant doesn't stop 5G. So screenshot that motherfucker and send it to me. I'll put it in my next article. There have been ads for, I don't know if you know what, Miracle MMS, Miracle Medicines, Miracle Mineral Solution. Do you know what MMS is?
No.
Industrial bleach.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, there's been ads for that on Facebook that I've been able to screenshot. I've screenshotted stuff that talks about the storm. That's QAnon stuff. But the big one is ads for misinformation about medicine, either anti-vaccine stuff or COVID-19 misinformation. And I've been able to chronicle this stuff using, I have a fake Facebook account. I think you're friends with my fake account. Don't ever tell anybody the name of my fake account because they'll mass report it, and I need that account.
I understand.
That's the account. That's the account where all the ads come from, because I follow every fucking bit of misinformation on that fucking website that I can find. And then the algorithm, when it wants to spit me out an ad, it thinks that I like misinformation, so it spits me ads full of misinformation, and that's where I'm capturing these ads from.
Okay, so why is this, though? Is it because people who are susceptible to conspiracy theories are also susceptible to shitty marketing? Is that the correlation?
Well, it's not that indirectly correlated. These are literally ads for misinformation. Like, it's, you know, anti-vaccine ads, for fuck's sake. Or ads for this bleach solution will cure your, I don't know, your gout, or it'll stop the chemtrail flu or whatever. And that stuff is just, they're just able to target people based on other interests they have that sort of correlate. I don't know how this stuff gets past the Facebook censors or whatever, because people are all claiming they're being censored. I'm just telling you, some of the, I mean, when I saw the one, by the way, the one for the MMS, the Miracle Mineral Solution, Spanish-speaking listener of ours sent it to us, and they sent us two screenshots, one in the original Spanish and another fucking ad they saw for the same company that they didn't translate and left it in Spanish, and I put both of those up in the most recent article. And so it's, you know, I'm curious, like, if I, you know, since we're in America and the American media is maybe scrutinizing Facebook, would I see more of this kind of garbage if I created a profile that for all intents and purposes was from Costa Rica and spoke Spanish? You know, I just wonder, like, you know, I just wonder kind of what it looks like for non-English speaking people on there. But even for just like your average American conspiracy theorist, Facebook will feed you ads for stuff that is, in those interests, everything from the Boogaloo to QAnon stuff to anti-vaccine stuff. They will just feed you those ads. And the thing is, I could understand where they're like, hey, we don't care if your crazy aunt shares a conspiracy theory. We're not going to pull that down. But that's an entirely different thing for them to be taking money from people for ads that spread misinformation, especially about COVID-19. I think that's very irresponsible.
Well, and they're making money two different ways because, one, they're gathering data and they're selling people's data. And I think that's another reason why groups are so insidious, is because that helps them be able to put people's data into different boxes. That they check this box and they're able, we have this group that's susceptible to this. It has these interests. And anything that helps them group you easier makes it easier for them to sell your data as a product. And then on top of that, they're incentivized to sell ads to these grifters. So what's the grifters game on that? So if you've got a product that, you're selling industrial bleach and you're selling it to a customer who's not going to be satisfied with your product, what's the end game of that? Is it just a quick buck?
The industrial bleach stuff, first of all, I mean, it's diluted. It's not like you're taking a bottle of like 100% industrial bleach and then dripping it on your tongue. It's not going to kill you, but it's not good for you. It's very bad for you. It's going to destroy your liver and your kidneys. People should not use the thing that's being called miracle mineral solution. The end game of that is to get people kind of addicted to the idea that they have like it's the same thing a snake oil salesman would do back in the day. They would get you addicted to the idea that this mix of cocaine and alcohol was doing something other than getting you high.
Well, see, at least that got you high, though. That's a little different. I would pay for that, hands down.
There's some kind of high. There's something alluring, something interesting in being able to tell and being in on the big secret that other people don't know about. There's something that gets you high on that. If you think that, I'm super healthy now and all the other people in my mom group or whatever don't know and they're not willing to try this miracle mineral solution and look at my skin and I'm so much better than all these other people, like that's like the allure there, right? It's the same thing as basically any kind of health scam. You think you have the magic power or the magic potion or whatever and nobody else has it, and you feel like it's like when you know something somebody else doesn't know, even if you're just playing a game or something and you gathered inside information through gameplay and you're able to, it's just there's something powerful when we think we know something that someone else doesn't know.
See, I want to come at it from the other side. What does the person selling this think? I had this wonderful idea to dilute some fucking bleach and sell it as this miracle cure. How do they think that's going to work out in the long run once people get some fucking bleach and realize it's a scam?
They don't. Okay, so this is like self-selecting, right? They use this MMS name because it's so easily searchable. So if you go search MMS, you're like, oh shit, I'm not going to drink that. Well, you're not there. You're not you get kicked out at the top of the funnel. It's fine, right? That's not really what I suppose they're looking for. I suppose they're looking for people who are gullible.
So it's just they've done the math and they think if we get X amount of gullible people, we're going to be able to turn a profit because this diluted bleach costs fucking 50 cents for us to bottle, if that.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And
these people have multiple schemes going on. This is fascinating to me because people always talk about how capitalism breeds innovation, and I just see it breeding shit like this over and over again.
Well, it's okay. So the person selling MMS probably isn't just selling the MMS stuff too. There's the jokes were about like Alex Jones's super male vitality shit, right? Well, those people are probably selling some version of that with a different branding, trying to get a different group of suckers that they can motivate in a completely different way with the I don't know, enhance your fucking masculinity or whatever, or here's some iodine that we've distilled or whatever the fuck they say about their iodine. So pay me $79 for a dropper bottle with 6 fluid ounces or whatever. So I think that I don't think that it's just like that they're selling something like MMS. I think they're often going to be selling a whole line of supplements.
They just run a scam factory.
Yes. It's not that entirely different than what Gwyneth Paltrow does with her Goop products. I mean, they're kind of the same thing.
Well, at least she's got a name, though. I understand why that sells.
But it's the products are not that functionally different than what you'll find in the InfoWars store, for example.
Fucking Alex Jones. What's the latest update on him?
Fuck if I know.
He's been quiet here lately.
Well, no, he just hasn't been on the major platforms. And like, I mean, I have a soundboard of him, but I mean, it's all old stuff. It's like this. It's like,
right now, I'm going to take a big old dump on the ground, and then I'm going to throw it at you. I
mean, the golden age of InfoWars is past us, my friend.
Man, I was a huge fan of Alex back in 2003. As I said, I was really on the 9/11 truther kick, all the way up, till the end of the 2000s, probably. You go to college and you take some philosophy classes and you have to challenge your beliefs and you kind of rethink some things.
Yeah, I mean, I was already making fun of conspiracy theorists by the time 9/11 came around, so I kind of, for whatever reason, understood the kind of thought process. But I think Alex Jones, I don't know, I think the golden age of Alex Jones is past, unless he's ready to go full QAnon. I think the fucking conspiracy theory movement's going to even leave his ass behind.
Has he not?
I don't know. Like, we don't check in on him that much unless, like, Media Matters or Right Wing Watch has a clip of him saying something especially outrageous.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to give him the watch. I watch him when other people bash on him and make fun of him.
Well, if less people are, like, bashing him and making fun of him, that's like you were saying about how Ben Shapiro kind of exists to be dunked on by leftists. Well, maybe if less people are making fun of Alex Jones, it's going to, like, reduce his brand.
And that's another thing, like, so Meghan McCain, like, I hate Meghan McCain with a passion, but honest to God, I would not have seen a minute of The View if it wasn't for Meghan McCain. I've watched so much of The View because she says stupid shit on there.
I mean, you may be right that that they're doing that on purpose, or maybe nobody did that on purpose, but everybody realized it worked at some point.
I guess. But go ahead.
Oh, I just think that I think that sort of the way conspiracy movements work is I think Alex Jones had a lot of staying power, but I think that these people, they're going to have a bit of a shelf life. Like, I just think they are, because some newer, crazier person is going to come along with newer, crazier ideas. Like, some of the stuff doesn't last very long at all. Like, if you think about it, the Flat Earth movement was huge, but it was a flash in the pan, because prior to the Flat Earth movement, there was chemtrails, and the chemtrails are still here, right? But the Flat Earth is gone. The Flat Earth movement is the same 5 Flat Earthers debating the same 5 skeptics for the 1,000th time. And that's the whole thing that's going on with the Flat Earth movement.
Well, the thing
even the chemtrails movement is starting. Well, the people in the chemtrails movement are starting to go away. Like this guy Jim Lee, who I debated, who pretends to be a meteorologist, he hasn't posted in months. And so I think like the people I think the personalities of these movements oftentimes have a shelf life. And even Alex Jones, I didn't think it was possible. I think it's possible that he may have just run out of steam or run out of staying power or whatever.
Well, the thing with Alex Jones is he is a really good broadcaster. He is a very talented, entertaining motherfucker. I can sit and watch him for hours. You've got to give him, and even back, I want to say I watched a Frontline about him not that long ago, and watching clips from when he was on the radio in Austin or somewhere outside of Austin. It was somewhere in Texas, wherever he grew up. Watching those clips of him on the radio in like 96, 97. The motherfucker was good. So, like, he's just batshit crazy. And I think money just makes people do insane things. And that's that's another thing. As a YouTuber, as a Twitch streamer, as a commentator, do you feel that your product and your views are being warped by the feedback that you get, the likes, the how people react to your stuff. Once again, doing the Dave Rubin thing. Dave Rubin, he stumbled into this and found out this worked, and he milked it. So are you conscious of that? Do you see that in other streamers?
I'll cross that bridge if I ever become popular, I suppose. I think what's going on here is you have to understand that there's it's not me. You know what I mean? Media Wench works with me. I got H.K. Perrin from the Silicon Valley Skeptics. I got historian Matt, who helps run the humanist community Silicon Valley here. I have the Councilman and the Good Wife, who are deeply involved in local politics on the process level. So I don't think I would be able to keep all those people that help me kind of have a more rounded view of things and have better talking points and better understandings of what's going on if I let my audience drag me in one specific direction ever. Do you know what I'm saying?
But do you see that as affecting other streamers and perhaps a problem with media going forward?
I think that's always been a problem with media, though, hasn't it? If part of the goal of what you're doing is to get popular and get the most people to watch what you're doing, aren't you going to, if something works, aren't you going to tend to continue to do it, whether it's good or bad?
That's true, but I see that criticism kind of coming towards people maybe a Vosh, who is kind of playing into, and especially you sit there and you watch him get those super chats and make that money. That has to affect the content that people put out. And is that especially a hyper problem in the age of social media? And is that one of the things that's fueling stuff like QAnon and the misinformation campaigns?
Okay, so maybe I'll go with maybe instead of making comments on people who are in my lane and who I think are doing, I'll say, fighting the good fight more or less, like Vosh or even Destiny or any of the kind of even just neoliberal all the way out to leftist streamers. I'm going to go with, there's a guy named Larry Cook who used to do a lot of anti-vaccine content. And as his audience started to be full of more QAnon people, his show started to become more QAnon focused. And I think that while I think the anti-vaccine movement is dangerous, I think that QAnon is a more radicalized, more dangerous conspiracy theory that I think is more likely to wind up with more people committing more acts of violence. And so I think instead of talking about people who I think are more or less fighting the good fight, I can just use Larry Cook as an example. And he got bigger as a result of doing more QAnon stuff. And I'm stunned that they haven't kicked him the fuck off of YouTube.
Well, is that one of the things that's fueling the misinformation?
There's so many things. This is such a complicated thing going on. There's so many factors. And as people spread more misinformation, one of two things happens. They end up with a niche community who would fucking ride or die for them, which is sort of what we've got a couple people that would ride or die for us, right? But we're desperately trying not to ever misinform anybody, right? But either that happens, or if you're part of the reason that the conspiracy theory or misinformation that you're spreading goes mainstream, and then you blow up and you get big, So it's not, it's going to go one way or the other. It's going to be a small group of very dug in people, or if you happen to be one of the reasons that it makes it big, then the small audience has already pulled you in that direction, and then you start gaining more audience, and of course you're going to continue going in that direction. And I think it's different for different people. I think a lot of people have a lot of integrity. I don't think the Majority Report lets their audience pull them in any particular direction in any real meaningful way. I think that other people do. I think that a lot of conspiracy theorists that are doing shows are doing it to gain an audience. They want people to agree with them. So I think, of course, people who are spreading false information might be more prone to let their audience pull them in a direction. Jimmy Dore, used to do like more like rational left-wing content, and as soon as he started on that Seth Rich kick, his shit blew up. And I mean, he wanted to make money. He's no dummy, so that's where he went.
He used to be funny.
The phone calls, fake Ron Paul that they had was hilarious. Oh my god! Remember the fake Ron Paul that used to call into a show? Oh my god!
I find him insufferable now.
Yeah, but I think that it's really important to draw a couple distinctions here. Like if people, like if I do, like for example, you know, our most popular show, it was a result of the women on our Sunday show threatening to mutiny if we kept playing Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson. And that got popular. That charts on iTunes. It's hard to have a podcast that charts on iTunes. Has that pulled me in that direction? To some extent. I spend more time preparing for that show than we did on the first episode of it every week now. Absolutely. I try harder to make sure that I have good content. I try harder to keep everything tightened together so that when people do listen to the podcast, they listen to the whole thing. But I'm not sure if that's letting my audience pull me in a direction or if that's me noticing that something is doing well and then trying to do a better job on it, you know?
Okay, I'll give you that. All right. Okay.
But that's a very different thing than, like, for example, Larry Cook, who was just running his mouth about the same 15 anti-vaccine talking points. And as soon as he brought up Q, his audience got bigger, and then that's all he talks about now. So that's like a completely different scenario.
Well, there's so many people that were seemingly rational that have just gone the fuck off the deep end.
Like I was saying before, man, these kind of cult-like groups online aren't that different than a regular cult, and they're not just going to attract stupid people. It's delusional to believe that you know, a community, or like even just a community that forms around chemtrails or whatever, those aren't all going to be stupid people. Some of them are entertaining, like that Madison Star Moon lady's hella funny. She's so funny. We have a soundboard of her that's so big here that I can't even find the specific clip I'm looking for because there's like dozens of shit on it.
I'm fascinated by her, but she's already blocked me. All right, so Straw Chad on Twitch wants to know what conspiracies do you prescribe to?
Well, that's the thing. That conspiracies happen all the time. People conspire to do things every day. There's RICO Act. It's racketeering. That's a conspiracy. It's a criminal conspiracy. There's criminal conspiracies. A big one that was in the news that I knew exactly what it was when I saw it was that Build the Wall, and all them people got arrested because they conspired to scam people, credulous people who just wanted to patriotically build the wall out of fucking like $25 or $30 million. And then they were dumb enough to text each other about it. And then they got arrested. So that's a conspiracy. Those people engaged in a conspiracy to commit fraud using GoFundMe. So people engage in conspiracies all the time, and they get busted for it some of the time. But that's like, it's not really the same thing as a thing like chemtrails. I don't think chemtrails are real. The thing about a conspiracy is that it's real. A conspiracy theory, you take 100 of them, 99 of them probably aren't going to be real when the chips all fall down. The reptilians. No, I don't believe in the reptilians, but that would be a fun one to believe in.
That was that David Icke guy, wasn't it? I think I'm familiar with that one from Penn and Teller's bullshit show.
Yeah. But that shit's like from the golden age of conspiracy theory, right? The reptilians in a lot of ways was in fact kind of like a dog whistle or a proxy for like Jewish people control the world. But I don't think most people who believed in that even knew that. MK Ultra, Straw Chad, that was a thing that happened, and it was a disgusting thing that the United States government did to people. That's not a conspiracy theory. That shit just happened. And
there's a lot of things throughout U.S. history. They're like, if you describe it to be fucking describing the Iran-Contra scandal, you sound fucking crazy describing it to somebody. But it actually happened.
Right, well, the thing with the Iran-Contra scandal is the people who were doing it had names. Even before it came out as with evidence and they were able to demonstrate that it happened, the people who were doing it had names. It wasn't like they or the elites or, you know what I mean? It was folks with names. Straw Chat, I don't know, when people say that MK Ultra is still happening, a lot of times that's from people in the so-called targeted individual community. And a lot of those people are just wacko. Well, not wacko is a shitty way to talk about them. I'm sorry. They're They have a lot of times they have undiagnosed mental illness, and they become delusional, and they believe that their neighbors or the people that they see at the train station are following them because they have the same schedule as that person or whatever. And a lot of the stuff I see about how MK Ultra is still happening comes from those people and from the anti-5G conspiracy people who are saying that they're using 5G to do mind control and shit. And that's like a lot of the stuff I see about MK Ultra today is like from like those communities.
Now MK Ultra, that was was it the high doses of LSD experiments in the military? Was that one? The mind control and shit?
MK Ultra was experiments with mind control. Yes. Obviously not conducted on rich white guys, right?
It never is.
So, as far as I know, the program was ended. I don't, you can't universally prove that something is negative, right? You can't universally prove that there is no one participating in mind control experiments. But as far as I know, the kinds of things that were going on in the MK Ultra program that are like on the record, as far as I know, those things have ended. I would be very surprised if those kinds of things are still going on. But there are certainly attempts to manipulate the opinions of the public. I mean, I do that on Twitch all the time. That's like what I'm doing on Twitch, is attempting to manipulate the opinions of the public.
Well, that
it just depends where do you draw the line,
Was MK Ultra what they based the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats? Was that what was based off of?
That was remote viewing. I don't know if the problem is that was satiring.
It's a really good movie. I enjoy comedy like that. I enjoy political comedies. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to ask you, you've got the I Want to Believe poster behind you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on aliens?
I would very much like to believe.
So
I don't. But I would very much like to.
The Pentagon has dropped some footage on us. And apparently my friend was telling me that I don't believe you don't believe in Bigfoot, do you?
No, but again, I have something really important to say about the Bigfoot people. Those people are cool and they probably have weed.
The people
I would
who
hang out
hunt
with a
for
Bigfoot person.
Bigfoot? Or a Bigfoot person?
No, Bigfoot, like a person who someone who likes to go out squatching, looking for Sasquatch. I would hang out with those people. Those people probably have beer and weed and shit, and they like to go camping. Camping's not really my bag, but of the conspiracy theory movement people, I would hang out with the Bigfoot people for sure.
I'm a big fan of camping when there's like hallucinogens involved. The outdoors and mushrooms. Mwah.
Well, then maybe you could see Bigfoot.
Perhaps. What makes you believe in Bigfoot, Straw Chad?
Oh, I can tell you why people believe in Bigfoot. They think that it's just because we keep finding new species of animals all the time. So it's not. But those species of animals are usually like at the bottom of the ocean, or there's some little tiny bug we never found or whatever. It's not like a whole ass 9 foot tall gorilla.
Well, I feel like now that we have, they have hunting cameras everywhere. Everybody has cell phones. If there was a Bigfoot, we would have definitely had footage of him by now, correct?
I think it's unlikely. I don't think it's impossible. I think it's unlikely. Firsthand accounts, as the person in the Twitch chat is saying, like, that's all well and good, but there have been like a lot of studies on eyewitness experiences, even on things like mundane things, like, they put a group of people out on the corner and they tell them to count the vehicles that are going by, and people come up with different numbers, and then they ask what color the third vehicle was, and people will say it was green or blue or yellow, and they all think they're right, or to some degree of certainty that they're right. So like eyewitness accounts are like not always the best way to determine something. If somebody thought they saw that gorilla and it scared the fuck out of them, I'd definitely have them on for an interview.
Dave Polides? I don't know that name.
No, I haven't heard of that person.
We may have to do research after the show. Okay, so
maybe
I want to know. The Pentagon dropped some footage of UFOs, of unidentified flying objects, not necessarily other world technology. What did you make of those videos?
Oh, there's all kinds of explanations for that stuff. I mean, I've seen stuff in the sky that I didn't know what it was. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I mean, even if a jet flies over, I couldn't tell you like the kind of jet it is, right? So like you just kind of extrapolate from that. Like late at night, you don't know what the light is. I don't know what those things are in those videos. Some of the videos were a little bit kind of grainy. Some of them were from like military aircraft, and they kind of had that green and black thing going on, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And it was kind of hard to make out what the stuff was. I don't know. Don't know.
But there seems to be a group of people who think that this is the year that they're going to reveal the existence of aliens, and that Area 51 really did have alien technology. I'm not saying I believe this. Right. I have a friend who has told me all about this.
Right, but you should ask your friend if they also thought this in 2018 and 2016 and 2014, right?
The Pentagon didn't drop some fucking footage that blew people, which I don't understand that, because I saw that the one video of the aircraft I saw a couple of years ago, and apparently the Pentagon actually released it. It was leaked or something a couple of years ago. I don't know how I saw it a couple of years ago, and then the Pentagon confirmed it or whatever this year. They declassified it this year.
I mean, you know, like the closer you get to the sort of epicenter where everybody, like the closer you get to Area 51, the less likely I am to believe anybody who makes those claims, because the people who go out to that area are primed to think they're going to see a fucking alien, because that's why they're there. But also there's testing of aircraft going on out there, and that's a lot of what people were seeing, and it's a lot of what's been admitted to over time, that when people thought they saw, you remember that triangle thing that everybody thought they saw?
Yeah.
A lot of that was that B-2 bomber or whatever was responsible for a lot of those sightings. Like, it turns out that we just put out a weird aircraft that we don't need later, and that's what people were seeing.
TR-3B, underground military bases.
That's like some history. That's like some History Channel shit.
I haven't watched History Channel since it was like respectable in like 1998. I haven't had TV since then.
Right. I do like the person in the chat though. They're asking about like kind of like the ancient alien stuff and like the stuff you'd see on the History Channel. I haven't had cable in a long time either, but they're asking about like sort of History Channel conspiracies, and I think those are way more fun. And also, the people who follow those conspiracy theories are way less likely to just go shoot up a school or something. So that's good.
That's another thing, man, is like, 2 years ago, I saw all this QAnon bullshit as fun. I saw it as fun, and you saw it as a danger that was bubbling under the surface, and guess who won the pony on that one?
Well, I didn't know it was going to be a problem. I just knew that it, based on what I had seen in the past with the Pizzagate thing, and you know, luckily enough, it was only one major incident, but that guy went into that fucking pizza place and started shooting and shit because he thought he was freeing the children. And this QAnon thing came up, and I was like, oh, this is Pizzagate 2.0 plus the Satanic Panic. I was like, this might get really bad. This might be really scary if it goes like mainstream. And unfortunately, it has. And like regular ass people who were regular ass people 2 years ago are like QAnon people now.
Well, like, okay, so my ex, who isn't political at all, started talking about Hollywood pedophile rings and shit. And I'm like, you know, that's a conspiracy about Oprah and Tom Hanks and harvesting shit from kids. And she's like, no, are you trying to say that there's not Hollywood pedophile rings? I'm like, are you talking about that one cult? Like, that was also a multi-level marketing scheme? Like, yeah, sure. Yeah. That cult.
And like a lot of people, and like a lot of powerful people from all industries were involved with Jeffrey Epstein. And I think the Miami Herald did a fabulous job fucking on the initial reporting on that. And I think it's important that people support local news, because they're usually the ones who break shit like that. But
Well,
You
Straw
know, I
Chad,
don't.
what do you think is true about that?
Well, that's the thing. Like the problem with this is like I don't even care. Like when somebody's like, "Oh, I have the truth and you can't handle my truth because I'm like enlightened and shit." That's just delusions of grandeur. Like that's what every conspiracy theorist says. The flat earth people are like, "Oh, you're a shill for big globe and you can't handle the reality of the firmament." I mean, as soon as I start seeing that stuff, I'm just like, "Dude, come on."
What truth do you see? You said dummies can't handle the truth. What truth are you talking about?
Here's the yeah.
I did my research. That's one I run into a lot. I did my research.
Here's a clip from like the second fucking ever episode of the Plex. Where'd it go? I always lose this one. Uh-oh. Man, I suck at my own soundboard. Can't believe I can't find this. Anyway, somebody was like, "Oh, here you go."
You should do your own research.
We've been making fun of that shit for fucking 5 years on our podcast.
So, like, you can't have a small majority. That doesn't make sense, Straw Chad. A small majority isn't a thing. That's kind of an oxymoron.
Well, like the talking point here is that like I'm special and I have the truth, and you're too stupid to understand the truth that my special ass has. It's exactly what Scientologists say.
Well, isn't that everything? That's religion going back. It's all fucking... Everybody's selling you something. It's all mysticism going back like throughout history.
And I mean, I'm also okay with not knowing everything. Like that's fine. Like it's not like the end of the world if I don't know anything, but I don't think that like being like somebody being like, "Oh, I have this hidden truth." Like that's like it ends up being like somebody makes the argument from their own authority in a lot of cases. They're like, "Well, I just know because I'm awake and aware," or whatever. And it's like, shut up, Madison Star Moon.
She's kind of cute though, man. Like, can you hook me up with her?
I don't know. They did a lot of making fun of the way she looks in in our communities. And I was like, "Hey, you guys, that's like not really the point here." And then people got mad at me. And I was like, "Well, I don't care if you're mad at me. I'm like, I'm the same age as her. And like, I'm just an average looking person too. And I don't think that we're well served by acting like she has a chin that's the size of a fucking building, because she doesn't. She just looks a certain way." But here's what Madison Star Moon had to say about me once.
Gay Dave is a fucking freak. He's a cackoo whore, and I despise him.
All hate.
Oh, man. She sounds like so much fun.
To the person in the chat, like I don't think that like if somebody doesn't believe you or believe the same thing that you believe, that necessarily makes them a dummy. I think that's like kind of a really kind of delusional way to look at the world. You have to understand that people who don't believe the same thing as you can be just as smart as you or even smarter than you. Like I was talking about people who join cults and conspiracy movements earlier. I like used to kind of think they were gullible people, and I talked to a guy who has been researching cults most of his adult life, and he just corrected me on that shit. And so like it's not that people are too dumb to believe in QAnon, it's that people just don't believe in QAnon.
Well, man, that's the hardest people to talk out of irrational beliefs are smart people, because they're able to fucking rationalize it and talk themselves into things. But like one of the things that really shocked me was when I found out like the number one profession likely to become a terrorist is fucking engineers.
Right. This Podesta email shit too. God, I'm so tired of this stuff. Like, I don't know what the fuck he was emailing me about. I read through it and I was like, this is all very mundane. Even the stuff that was like high lit. I don't know. Like they're like, "Oh, he has weird art in his house." I'm like, that art isn't that weird. And like, what's it, a crime now to have weird art in your house? I mean, fuck.
Well, I mean, this is a motherfucker that's running a campaign talking about providing food to different people, and of course he references fucking pizza a lot. Because what do campaigns run on?
Delivered pizza.
Yeah, all the fucking time, like every night of the week. So I'm sure a lot of his job was coordinating how to get boxes of pizza to people.
Right. That sucks. You're the campaign director for a presidential campaign, but all you can do is fucking order 10,000 pizzas and then have everybody call you a child abuser.
People don't realize how mundane a lot of these roles are. And like making John Podesta out to be some fucking satanic pedophile is hilarious.
I think Straw Chad in the fucking chat is trolling or like doing satire because he thinks that there's a video of Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin cutting somebody's face off.
I'd love to see that.
I saw the video. It's like if you so like a common way that people will manipulate photos and a common way that people will manipulate photos and videos is they'll take a high resolution photo or video. Maybe with a video, they'll take a 1080p or even a 720p video, and then they'll manipulate it in high resolution and do as good a job as they can to make it look real, and then they'll go render it. And they'll render that shit at they'll render that shit at like 360p with like the fucking the MPEG or MP4 compression turned all the way up. So there's all this digital like noise in it that covers any of the like telltale signs of editing, and that's the most likely thing that explains the so-called frazzle drip video. Either that or it was just completely staged and people did it with makeup, masks, whatever. I don't know, but it seems I watched it. I'll say I wasn't convinced by it, but I think if you brought up the frazzle drip video, I think this person's just trolling.
I thought Frazzle Drip was an album by Primus in like 1992.
I mean, they're in on it.
Primus is. That motherfucker just likes to go fishing. All right, I know you've got to get going here in a little bit. Do you want to go into the QAnon? Do you want to talk about it for a second?
Yeah.
What do you see the next? Man, we've got a few dark months coming ahead of us. Where do you see this thing going?
The thing, like, there's like a lot of people saying that the Jim Watkins from 8kun or 8chan or whatever is Q, and first of all, I don't necessarily think that's true. The evidence they showed was just some IP addresses, and I think those IP addresses might be for like a DDoS protection service that all those sites share, like sort of like what Cloudflare does, but obviously the Cloudflare is not going to protect the QAnon sites. But I think they're using like some DDoS protection, and that's how people are finding the same IP address for it. But I don't know what's going to happen going forward. I think that they did a really clever thing with like sort of doing the Save the Children thing that they were doing, because I think they brought a lot of people to these events that they had who don't even necessarily know what QAnon is. And so they're able to like recruit at these events of like normal ass people who think they're there fighting child trafficking. And I think they're doing I don't know who's behind any of this stuff. It's like a decentralized movement, so it's hard to like say whose idea that was or how it kind of bubbled up that way.
Well,
but
it started
I think the marketing
as a decentralized movement, but clearly there is money being pumped into it from somewhere. As I told you, I added a bunch of QAnon people, and they were bots.
The members. So, okay, so first of all, like, I don't like the word bot is like kind of a misnomer. What you're probably running into are like highly moderated propaganda accounts, and everybody's like, oh, it's Russia, it's Macedonia. Well, maybe, but there's also campaign apparatuses doing it. There's private, we'll call them private intelligence firms or private security firms, like sort of like the old Blackwater that might be doing those kinds of things too. There's a lot of people with an interest in like sowing discord and sowing distrust of institutions and especially of one another. And like when people are like, oh, that's a Russian bot, I've stopped correcting those people because it's like tiring, and it's like, okay, you have a blue wave in your Twitter handle, please just vote and just stop telling everybody you know what's going on with the bots, because this is embarrassing. But there are, if you were, just imagine if you were the head of intelligence for another country and you saw something like QAnon coming up, and you saw it like kind of getting Americans to accuse other Americans of being child abusers with no real evidence, and you had a vested interest in destabilizing the American society and the American culture, and you could spend a little bit of money on a propaganda campaign for that, wouldn't you do it?
I personally wouldn't.
But you're not. I'm saying
If I was in that situation, I guess.
Yeah, if you would-
yes.
Like probably cheaper than buying a bomb.
That's true.
Nobody can really prove you did it, right? And so, but it's not like the United States' hands are clean on this shit either. It's not like we're not doing that shit in other countries too. So it's just, there's certainly like intelligence operations, state-run, illegal. I don't know if there's such a thing as illegal or legal espionage, but there's like a bunch of people with their hands in it. But most of the people spreading it are regular ass people who got radicalized somehow. I hope I'm wrong, but I think the next phase of it, I don't know if you remember this. A few years ago, the chemtrails people were spreading around lists of people they were calling shills. And they were like using people's full names and Facebook profile pictures. Do you remember this?
No, I don't.
I remember this because I was on all those lists and I was proud to be on all those lists. Well, what if we change this up a little bit and the QAnon people, or the people that are spreading this QAnon stuff start making lists of people in their community?
You just got called a shill.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good.
Every shill from Kaku was on there posting all their garbage.
I mean, it's not like I don't have a clip for all this stuff. I think that Straw Chat is like one of my friends from like my community who's just in there trying to gonna get a rise out of Dave. Anyway, but I think that the next phase, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think the next phase, and we've already seen a little of it. Like there's been these cases where people are saying that like local orphanages are doing child trafficking, and that local people in their community who are have foster children are involved in trafficking. And there was that one lady that tried to run people down with her car thinking they were pedophiles, but she was drunk as fuck. So I'm not sure what was going on there. But I think the next phase, and I hope I'm wrong, is if they start making lists, especially if they start making lists of people in their local communities who they're going to just claim are child abusers because they don't believe in QAnon, I think that shit's gonna get pretty dark pretty fucking quick.
So this is just a new era of McCarthyism, and is it an attempt to paint the left, paint the entire left as pedophiles? Use the words "commie," "pedophile" interchangeably.
I think it's more like the Satanic Panic, but instead of it happening on like the fucking Phil Donahue show, it's happening on Facebook in a group.
Okay.
But I mean, I understand what you're saying. I don't know if a lot of these people even, it's hard to tell because there's so much like this, where we go one, we go all. Some of those people don't even know, like when they're sharing this WWG1 WGA, they may just think it's like a solidarity with their kind of political identity, and they may not know about any of that weird shit about spirit cooking and the fucking tunnel children and shit. So it's
jumping
like
down
some
the
of it
rabbit
gets
hole.
Really muddied up, and I don't want to I don't want to paint any of this with a broad brush. And I think a lot of the people that were sharing the Save the Children shit, like I think that they like legitimately care about, you know, victims of abuse. They just didn't know that they were also helping spread a decentralized internet cult. And I think some people, once they figured out what was going on, I hope that some of those people, if they really wanted to save the children, started donating money to organizations who help victims of child trafficking, which is what I think you should do if you'd like to save the children.
Okay, so a Biden win, what does that do to the QAnon movement?
I don't think anything.
It just continues on the way it has been.
I don't think anything.
What about a Trump win?
Nothing.
Either way, this thing it's brewing separate from what happens in our political landscape, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's going to have a similar shelf life maybe to the flat earth movement. But I think right now it's kind of at its peak, and I think it's going to die out no matter who wins the election. I don't think it's going to go away. I just think it's going to become less intense. I think something else might come along to take its place.
And is that one of the reasons why we're seeing it so fervently right now, is because we're leading up to the election, and there are forces that are magnifying it, amplifying it?
I think insofar as there are like highly moderated propaganda accounts boosting the messages of people who are spreading the stuff around, I think maybe it's not unreasonable to think that it has something to do with the election.
All right. Well, this has been a really fun conversation. I know I got to let you go.
Yep. Justin, thanks for coming on, and maybe we'll have you on the Sunday show sometime soon so you can talk regular politics with us.
Absolutely. I'd love to, my friend.
Peace out.
Peace.
EchoplexMedia.com, everybody.
Please check out Producer Dave and all the shows at Echoplex. Go over and check out his stream. All right. That'll do it for today. As always, go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm Justin Freakin. We'll see you tomorrow on the Troll Patrol. Live.